I'm telling you something, man. This tribalist mentality that I'm starting to detect from the OEMs of NASCAR is really starting to rub me the wrong way. Today's video is titled Parker Retzlaff did nothing wrong, and the mere fact that people out there think he has done something wrong is probably why everyone's making videos and articles about this situation. I for one can't believe we're even in a situation like this, but you know. But apparently Chevrolet is mad at Parker Retzlaff for pushing Harrison Burton to the win at Daytona last Saturday. Now, for those of you who didn't see, on the final restart of the race, Kyle Busch was leading. Harrison Burton was to his outside. Kyle Busch had Christopher Bell behind him. Harrison Burton had Parker Retzlaff behind him. Retzlaff got a run on the final lap, pushed Harrison Burton into the lead. He was unable to do anything after doing so. Burton would then block Kyle Busch. He'd take the win and a playoff berth with it. And one would assume that, seeing that this is Parker Retzlaff's first real cup start, because he made the debut in Richmond, but that was driving for MBM. You know, he had no shot. It was really just a race he did to prepare himself for Daytona, right? So this was supposed to be Retzlaff's actual cup debut, so I will view it as such. We have a guy driving the 62 car for Beard Motorsport, first Cup Series start ever, yeah? Pretty much been a journeyman in Xfinity, a guy that has shown great talent, and a guy that, in my opinion, is a steal for Chevrolet. And now he is being scolded by the manufacturer because he pushed another manufacturer to the win and in turn did not help Kyle Busch. Now, there's so many problems I have with what's going on right now and what I've heard, what I've read in articles so far as it regards this incident. And I'm pretty sure it has been confirmed by Retzlaff that Chevrolet are not happy. These are not rumors. People are legitimately upset with the kid for not pushing Kyle Busch to the win, even though I'm pretty sure I've read somewhere that Kyle Busch and his spotter and his crew chief, they made the call to let Christopher Bell be the one to push him, and it just didn't work out. There's nothing that Retzlaff could have done to help Kyle Busch except just not push the 21. And if he's not gonna push the 21, what does he do? Does he cancel his run? Does he pull out of line and, you know, just sink to the back? What does he do in a situation like that to not help Harrison Burton when you're in a line the way you're in and you have a run the way you do? Parker Retzlaff should not be thinking about, oh my god, how am I gonna help Chevrolet? No, it's a plate race. He should be thinking about going for the win, and I personally think that by pushing Burton, that's what he was trying to do. Parker Retzlaff didn't push Harrison Burton to the front of the pack because he was trying to get Harrison the win. He was doing it to try and set himself up for victory, and that's what he should be doing. He's a racer. He went motor racing, to quote Michael Massey. He went motor racing, and I'm just in shock. Now, as we all know, or maybe most of us know, Retzlaff drives for Beard. Beard is in cahoots with Richard Childress Racing. So it's easy to see why Childress would be upset that one of their cars, you know, helped another rival win at their expense. It's easy to see why they're upset on paper, right? The frustration is warranted. But to think that this move, this final lap by Retzlaff could cost him opportunities in the future is absolutely insane to me. It's absolutely insane to me. He said himself in post-race, he was trying to make a name for himself. He was going for the win. You're telling me Chevrolet is more mad at a young Chevy talent in his first proper cup start going for the win? You're telling me that makes them more upset than the fact that Kyle Busch isn't in the playoffs? Because maybe Chevy should ask themselves why Kyle Busch isn't in the playoffs. Regardless of your opinions on the format, this has not been a good year for Kyle Busch. It's been probably one of his worst years ever, if not his worst season in Cup so far. And obviously you get the desperation. Kyle has come somewhat close to good finishes. As a matter of fact, if he hadn't had he had a streak of just bad finishes out of his control, and that's kind of why he's in the situation he's in right now. But I just feel like Parker Retzlaff is now being used as a scapegoat to cover up the fact that this season just hasn't been that good for RCR. Both of their cars aren't going to be in the playoffs at this rate if neither of them win Darlington, right? There's no way Kyle Busch can point his way in. At least one RCR car won't be in the playoffs. They won Richmond, but the way they did it was so messed up that NASCAR took away the playoff berth. Kyle Busch hasn't run good enough to point his way in, and he hasn't won a race yet, so he's not going to make it. So I don't understand how Chevrolet is more mad at Retzlaff than the fact that they're in a situation right now where one of the best NASCAR drivers of our generation is about to drop out of the playoffs, right? Like, what's going on? I'm reading the tweet right now from Daniel Trotta. He says he was lined up fourth in a Chevy, pushed Harrison Burton in a Ford to the win. Busch was in a Chevy on the front row. Chevy's reportedly upset with Parker. Parker says he won't get into any consequences he suffered as a result, but says it's not what he wanted to have happened, but he wanted to put himself and his sponsors on the map and give himself a chance in the second Cup start, as it should be, right? As it should be. And it would be very interesting to me if this has some catastrophic repercussions. Can you imagine Chevy tells Jordan Anderson Racing, listen man, this guy, he's not about the Chevy lifestyle. He pushed a Ford to the win, get rid of him. Can you imagine if that actually happens? Can you imagine if Chevrolet fumbles a guy who I think is one of the most underrated talents in stock car racing today, and he ends up going to Ford or Toyota or something and ends up flourishing there? You're telling me Chevy's about to miss out on another potential great, in my opinion, over one race? It's just childish to me, man. And now that I'm thinking about it, it also reminds me of what's going on with Zane Smith right now, because there are rumors that Ford feel like they were hard done by Zane Smith when he made the call to go to Trackhouse Racing and Chevrolet instead of sticking with the Ford camp. And that in and of itself is problematic to me. Yeah, now, granted, in that scenario, I don't know the full details of how Zane left Ford. I know he won the Truck Series Championship. He had been with Front Row in trucks. He did some starts with Front Row in Cup. And I was of the impression it was going to lead to a full-time front row seat at some point, but he made the move to go to Chevy. And now that he's in a situation where Trackhouse have pretty much released him, all signs point to him going back to Ford. But now it looks like Ford don't want him back because he betrayed them to go to Trackhouse and to go to Chevrolet. And it's just, even though I see that perspective more than I see the Retzlaff situation, it really does come off as though these OEMs are just being kind of sassy for no reason. You have to really look at what these guys are mad at, and you have to think to yourself, is this really worth being upset over? Because from the outside looking in, it just makes Ford and Chevy look childish. It really does. Can you imagine Retzlaff's whole Chevy career gets ruined because of this one moment? It's ridiculous to me, man. It's a plate race too. That's what upsets me the most about this. This is a plate race. Yeah? Anything can happen. People can get runs out of nowhere. You know how is Retzlaff supposed to help Kyle Busch from a whole other line? Instead of just slowing down. You want this guy to throw away his chance of bringing you a win? Because it might compromise Kyle Busch? Whose interests do you have at heart at that point? Do you have Chevy's best interest at heart when you're trying to stop another Chevy driver from going for the win to benefit another Chevy driver? Like, what's going on here, man? How could Chevrolet walk away from this race and not be impressed by Parker as opposed to vilifying him and saying that there are going to be consequences? That's what Parker said in the interview. There's going to be consequences for what he did. So what does this mean? Is he not going to be in the 31 next year? Is Chevy going to ban him? Is he going to be blackballed from Chevrolet? What's going on here? If these rumors continue to spiral, Chevrolet might need to put out a statement clearing all of this up. Because if you're going to allow us to, if you're going to allow us to just continue speculating, it's only going to do more harm to the brand. Because I don't know there are a couple people that I've seen pretty mad at Retzlaff saying, no, he should have helped Kyle Busch. But those are fans. If big corporations are really about to blackball this guy for going for the win in his second cup start, then that's a problem to me, man. Manufacturer orders. Listen, man, I get it. I get the brand loyalty and trying to help another Chevy, but at the end of the day, it's a race. It's a whole race, man. Team orders on a plate track, you know. Like, what are we doing here, man? Parker Retzlaff did nothing wrong. And if Chevy is willing to lose out on him because of this one moment, if they're willing to scapegoat Parker Retzlaff because of this one moment and try and paint him as the reason for Kyle Busch's season being a failure, they're not going to look at the races where Kyle had no pace or the races he got taken out. They're going to use Parker Retzlaff pushing Burton to the win as the end-all be-all scapegoat as to why Kyle Busch didn't make the playoffs. And I hope that's not the case, but that's how it's looking right now. Now, I don't know whether or not Richard Childress is upset. Richard Childress has been in some hot water this year. His conduct with Sheldon Creed and Austin Hill last year wasn't good. His conduct during Richmond wasn't really all that good either. Richard Childress isn't necessarily the most liked personality in NASCAR right now, and it is having an effect on RCR because people are starting to beef RCR because of stuff Richard Childress is doing and saying. Listen, man, just to wrap this up into a little bow, I'm kind of appalled by what I'm seeing right now, and I'm kind of appalled that Parker is gonna actually be punished in some way for what he's done here. It's a bad look for the sport, and Chevrolet need to do something. They need to put out a statement. They need to do some damage control, because what I'm seeing right now, the reactions from the fans, it's a bad look. Chevrolet need to do something. I'm gonna end it there. Unscripted, complete.